Hi guys, and welcome to Daytona. Here we are for what is the final week of the season, race 13, the penultimate race. I do love a race at Daytona. So let's see how they line up on the grid. So what we have, we'll go to qualifying and see how they qualified. And we have, no surprise, Eric Ronenberg out front. Sinan in second place, followed by Dan Wareham. Sean Webber in fourth. Rush Lee in fifth. Then Tom Bland. Jake Dade. Rob Sutherland in eighth. Scott Kostrick ninth. Jack Holland in 10th. Lee Rylands in 11th. Pete Woodmore in 12th. Then closely followed is Dan Forrester, Martin Shirley, Adrian Hadfield, Stuart Briley, John Johnson, Peter Sigdar, Rob Jackson and Niles Cooler. Brings up the rear of the grid. So, here we go. Penultimate race of Season 7 in the Tanso Racing Group GR86 League. Let's see how we go now. Let's go racing. And we're away. And crikey, Eric took a bit of a spin there, which has given Sinan the lead and Dan Wareham in second. That was a bit of an unusual start from Eric. Really caught out there, but he goes back into third place. Sinan out front, Dan Wareham closely behind with Eric Ronenberg, Tom Bland, Sean Webber trying to make the best of it as they come through. Fantastically round there. Now Eric Ronenberg is getting a bit swamped by Sean Webber and Tom Bland after that start. But Sinan's taking it away out front. He really has run away with it. Dan Wareham coming up closely behind. This is really tight as they come round to the part of track that will leave them out onto the oval. What a fantastic start to the race. Here comes Sinan. Dan Wareham closely behind and Eric Ronenberg trying to make the places back up. Sean Webber closely behind him. Sinan gets out there on the oval and he's away. There's a hell of a draft coming around this oval section though in these cars, and look at Eric on the back of Dan Wareham. Dan goes to the outside of Sinan as they come into the bus stop. There's Sean Webber charging up behind Eric Ronenberg there as they go flying through. Dan Wareham takes the lead as they come out of the bus stop onto the back end of the oval. So Dan Wareham leads it from about a tenth, but that's closing down pretty quickly from Sinan, with Eric Ronenberg close behind, then Sean Webber, then Tom Bland and Scott Kostrick. There's hardly half a second between the top 5 or 6, and they're all going for it. And it's gone 3 wide, so they come up across the line. Three wide with Sean Webber now out front as they come into turn 1. Large sweeping left-hander this, and do they manage to hold it? No, Scott Kostrick just gone there on the grass with Sean Webber as well, so that leaves Dan Wareham out front with Eric Ronenberg and Tom Bland. That sorted a few of them out, hasn't it? We come round now, Dan Wareham is away from Eric Ronenberg and Tom Bland. Crikey, this is even better than last week at Interlagos. Dan Wareham comes down and under braking Eric Ronenberg closes that gap. Absolutely amazing, with Tom Bland close on his tail, less than 2 tenths behind. And then there's Sinan and Lee Rylands not far behind either, and I suspect a lot will catch up as we come out onto the oval section, onto the bank Dan Wirham's out front, 3/10 behind is Eric Ronenberg, closely followed by Tom Bland, who is right on his tail, looking eager to get him going into the bus stop. But all the time they're closing down Dan Wirham. It's going to make for a tasty race, this. So, Dan Wirham, Eric Ronenberg, as they come up to the bus stops. Tom Bland squeezing in between. Is there room for a little one? Not quite. And Eric takes a dive, goes down the inside of Dan Wirham. Tom Bland catches up on Dan Wirham as well. And then sneaking up the inside is Sinan. Sinan takes Tom Bland. Neck and neck now. Eric Ronenberg, Dan Wirham. And then we've got Sinan and Tom Bland sitting there. Side by side, these guys. As they come round to the start finish. Oh, a bit of argy-bargy there from Tom Bland and Sinan. Oh, no, and that's it. That's taken Sinan out. That is unfortunate. That was close racing up to that point. That was really unfortunate. Eric Ronenberg and Dan Wirham carry on out front regardless. And Eric's got the lead back from Dan Wirham. Tom Bland close behind, then Lee Rylands, Jake Day, Jack Holland. Back to Sean Webber in 7th. Not a lot between it from those lot. Eric's trying to take it away here. He's got nearly half a second now on Dan Wirham. Although Tom Bland has just taken Dan Wirham. Flying away is Eric now. Tom Bland's now got Lee Rylands to worry about. Dan Wirham slipped back to 4th place with Jake Dade in the game now. A couple of seconds back to Jack Holland. Dan Forster in 7th. 2.5 seconds behind him with Scott Kostrick in 8th. 3/10 back. Eric Ronenberg now got well over half a second lead on Tom Bland. Tom is going to be in the draft, but I think that's going to be too much of a gap to make up before the horseshoe. Just afterwards. So Scott Kostrick and Peter fighting back here with Peter Woodmore, Scott Kostrick, Peter Sitka. Going 3 here. Peter Woodmore looking for the inside. No, don't quite get it. And Scott Kostrick stays ahead. Peter Sitka in front of him. So back up out front. Eric Ronenberg now leads it from Tom Bland, Lee Rylands. Dan Wirham's back into 4th now, but he's slowly catching up on Lee Rylands. And this bank is giving the draft as you'd expect. And here we go, 2 for 2. We come across the line. Tom Bland takes the lead from Eric Ronenberg. But as they go into the first corner, Eric has it on the inside. Tom's left hanging dry. And Lee Rylands comes round on the inside as well. He's going to catch Tom Bland up. As we come round into the infield, Eric Ronenberg now. Half a second back to Tom Bland. Lee Rylands just been taken himself by Dan Wirham. And then he's got Jake Dade to worry about. So there's 5 of them in it here. Less than a second between all of them. The biggest gap here is Dan Wirham back to Lee Rylands, but Tom Bland, in the meantime, has got Eric under pressure. Jake Dade has just taken Lee Rylands there. Just a bit at the back there. Jake Dade just doing enough, but I suspect Lee Rylands will be close on his tail now. We look back to Pete Woodmore. He's got a train of 5 behind him, but they're about a second behind, so they're not going to catch him. And well, in the meantime, Tom Bland is making moves on Eric Ronenberg. Look, as we come through the bus stop, Eric keeps ahead. In fact, he pulls away. He must have got some great traction coming out of there. In the meantime, Dan Wirham we're going to see an overtake, are we? As Dan Wirham comes up on Tom Bland. Yeah, and he's got him. Great view here. As we come round, across the line, Eric Ronenberg holds it from Tom Bland, who's neck and neck with Dan Wirham as we come into T1. They just hold each other as they come round that first corner, down past pit exit. And Eric Ronenberg is now 4/10 ahead of Dan Wirham, who's 5 seconds ahead of Jake Dade and Lee Rylands, 3/10 behind. Eric's holding them at bay. There's a gap starting to appear now. Eric ahead by half a second. Dan Wirham another half a second behind him, and Jake Dade 3/10, followed by Lee Ryland. Basically it's a top 5 fight for the top 5 places. Further back there's a bit of argy-bargy with Sean Webber and Martin Shirley. They're going at each other here, 4th, 6th and 7th, really close as they come round onto the banking. But too far away to get any decent draft there, and in the meantime Dan Wirham is now under pressure from Jake Dade. Jake Dade coming up closely as they come in to the bus stop. Jake Dade there, will he get a decent exit and be able to catch Dan Wirham on the back end of the embankment up to the start finish line? Tom Bland's in the meantime is taking Eric Ronenberg. Eric may have actually got a slowdown there. He's disappearing down there into 4th. He must have got a slow down penalty. That's the only reason he would have dropped down there. There was nothing else he was doing wrong. Meanwhile out front Tom Bland now is under pressure from Dan Wirham as we come around into T1, but closely followed by Jake Dade as well. Take advantage of any mistakes the front two make, and you can be sure Eric will be fighting to get that place back again. So as the top 5 come round into the infield, Tom Bland a couple of tenths ahead of Dan Wirham, Jake Dade closely followed by Lee Rylands and Eric Ronenberg. 12 seconds back to Sean Webber, then Martin Shirley, Jack Holland, Scott Kostrick and Stuart Briley sees out your top 10. Dan Wirham just lets Tom Bland know he's there. It's good battling by all 5 of these over the weeks, and they're not letting us down tonight either. Tom Bland goes wide, Dan Wirham comes for the inside, and he's right on Tom Bland's tail. He's not going to let Tom get away here. He's going to have him before we even get to the bus stop. My guess is he'll cut in, take him as they go through the bus stop. Here we go. Let's see what he does. No, he's going to stay with him. So what Dan's going to do here is go for a good exit, use the draft. Maybe they're working together, trying to pull away from Jake Dade. That's exactly what they could be doing here. They're not quite touching, so they're not what we call draft bumping, but or bump drafting, whichever way round the phrase goes. But as close as, they are neck and neck and not fighting much. Dan is not fighting much. This is this looks like a bit of teamwork here. So Tom Bland takes it through T1. Dan Wirham now backs off 3/10, where he's been hugging his tail and could have quite easily taken him on the embankment, chooses not to. They've now put nearly a second between them and Jake Dade back in third place, which is really good going. And Eric Ronenberg is on the back of Jade. So Eric now has got to do something special to get round Jake pretty quickly before these front two basically romp away with it. And that is going to be a very big possibility now as they come round back onto the embankment. Tom Bland, Dan Wareham is close enough but not threatening. Meanwhile, Jake Dade is another half a second behind with Eric Ronenberg right on his tail. So, will Eric try to get past Jake, or will he bump draft with him to get into the horseshoe? No, he's going to go down the inside and try and take Jake on the horseshoe. Here we go, he makes the move, brakes a little bit later, takes Jake on the inside, and look at the slingshot he gets there. And he's right up with Dan Wareham, but there comes Jake all the way back again on the outside of Eric Ronenberg. He's going to give Eric a real tough run here, make it really hard for him to win the race. All the time they're fighting, they're now nearly a second down on Dan and Tom Bland. And Dan and Tom up front playing the clever game here. They are working together and pulling away. I mean, Eric has put in a sub 207 there. And the others are all over 207. But he's still not caught him. He's still nearly a second down. This is turning into a bit of a strategic race. I think Tom Bland's made a mistake there, and Dan has had to go through. He couldn't afford to sit behind him. So I wonder whether now Tom will play wingman and hold Eric at bay. I'm not sure the draft will let him do so as Eric comes flying in. Last of the late breakers there. No danger of taking anyone out. Nice and clean. But Eric now goes round to try and take Tom Bland on the outside. Is Tom trying to slow Eric down and let Dan get away? I'm not quite sure. It's not going to matter much on the embankment anyway. It's wide enough that you get four cars, well, four of these GR86s side by side, that's for sure. Now it's becoming a little bit of a parade, but they have no choice but for the gap to close up. Tom gets really close up to Dan but decides not to go for it. Not sure that's such a good strategy, because now Eric is really close on the tail of Tom Bland as they come up and around onto the embankment. Dan Wareham is 0.3 ahead of Tom Bland, but Eric Ronenberg is now only a tenth or so behind. And he's got the draft. And he looks like he is really going to go for it into T1, goes for the outside. I think he's waiting for T1 here. All right, Eric's through. Eric, oh, has Dan Wareham made a mistake there? Sorry, have I got mixed up? Quite sure what happened there. Cars with the similar liveries, but Tom Bland, Dan Wareham and Eric Ronenberg. So now Tom Bland's back out front again. Dan Wareham close behind, but now under real pressure from Eric. And Jake Day just behind is now a top four. Lee Ryland's 4 seconds behind Martin Shirley. Another 17 seconds back there. So there's nothing much doing until we get back to Jack Holland and Adrian Hadfield in 8th and 9th. But these guys are so close. Tom Bland's taking us round with Dan Wareham 0.3 behind, Eric Ronenberg 0.3 behind him, Jake Dade another 0.3. Meanwhile, we look at Jake Holland and Adrian Hadfield having a bit of a scrap here. Adrian just on the tail of Jack Holland, but Jack's trying to close Peter down here. We might get him on the embankment, but we're going to nip back out front because it's going on again as we come round into the horseshoe. Sorry. Into the bus stop. I've got the horseshoe from. Never mind. So Tom Bland with Dan Wirham 2/10 back and Eric Ronenberg another 2/10 there, but that gap is closing down all the time. Right, definite bump drafting going on now. Dan Wirham gives Tom Bland a little push, but Tom moves out of the way, lets him through. And unfortunately, Eric has now got through there. Eric goes down the inside of Dan Wirham as he goes into T1. But Dan Wirham's going to lose 2 places here because Tom Bland's going to go through as well. But they're fighting, they're playing nicely, Tom and Dan. Although there's not a lot that they can do between them. It's almost whatever traction they've got is making for the places, and I think Jake might just be sitting there waiting to pick up the pieces in case one of these 3 out front makes a mistake. I mean, we've seen a couple from Eric already, which has it's made it hard work for him. He almost ran away with it at one point in the early stages, but now he just can't get away from these guys. But he's done a good effort of getting through them. Was back in 5th at one point. So Eric leads them round with Tom Bland, then Dan Wirham, all very close. Tom's right on Eric's back, and Dan Wirham's come flying up the outside. As they go into the bus stop, come out the other side, Eric's going to just get swamped, I think, here. Nothing doing. Dan Wirham's tucked in. He's not going to be able to get out there and get across the line. So it's Eric from Tom Bland. Dan Wirham close in behind. As we come up to the line, what's it going to be? Oh! Dan tries to push him out of the way. We're coming up to the line here. It's Eric from Dan Wirham. It's really close. Eric, Dan Wirham, Tom Bland, Jake Dade. What a fantastically close race that was. Less than a second between them. A bit of fun afters going on there. And we see Lee Rylands come across the line. But we're a whole nother 20 seconds back to Martin Shirley. Jake Holland 8 seconds behind him. Peter Sidcup. As these guys come up across the line, Peter's now taking it from Jack for 7th. Scott Kostrick's coming round, but they've got it. So it's Jack in 8th, Scott in 9th, Adrian ends up in 10th, Peter Woodmore, Stuart Briley, Rob Sutherland all the way back there, Dan Foster coming across the line, Rob Jackson and John Johnson finishes them off. Come on there, John. Anytime. So, qualifying results, we don't want them. See if we can get the race results up. Sorry, guys. There we go. So we got Eric Ronenberg. He's the winner. Ahead of Tom Bland, Jake Dade, Lee Rylands, Martin Shirley. That's your top 5. Then Peter, Jack Holland, Scott Kostrick, Adrian Hadfield in 9th there, which is really good for the leading AM, and Peter Woodmore in 10th, Stuart Briley, Rob Sutherland, Sean Webber, Dan Wirham, Dan Forster, Rob Jackson, John Johnson and Rush Lee sitting at the back and lap behind. So, final race to come. Will it be exciting? We wait and see. So here we go, guys. The final race of Season 7 in the Tanso GR86 League. We're at Daytona once again. And we've got Peter Woodmore, because of the reverse grid, out on pole, followed by Adrian Hadfield, then Scott Kostrick. That'll be your top three leading this away. Adrian Hadfield and Eric Ronenberg are AM and Pro leaders respectively there. So let's get started with the last race of the season. I hope you enjoy. Here we go. Oh, and very similar to the last race, the last start, Peter Woodmore loses it on the line. That's good. Scott Kostrick off in front, followed by Adrian Hadfield. Peter's got up there as well, so we've got Scott Kostrick, Peter Sidcar, Adrian Hadfield. Peter Woodmore's dropping back. Jack Holland's just taken fourth. Martin Shirley in sixth. Lee Rylands, Jake Day further back. I see Simmons lost it. Stuart Briley's lost a couple of places there as well. Martin Shirley and Peter Woodmore trading places, but Scott Kostrick is away. Scott's got this. He's way out front. It's looking good from his perspective. Not got much trouble there. A second and a half ahead of Peter Sidcar, with Adrian Hadfield in third. So further back, they're a bit more tightly bunched as we look at Scott, Peter and Adrian, but then we've got Jack Holland closely on Adrian's tail. Adrian goes wide there. Jack Holland's coming up the inside. Is he going to be able to take him? Oh, one way or another maybe. But then we've got Pete Woodmore fighting his way back after that unfortunate start there. And Martin Shirley close on Peter's tail, followed by Lee Rylands, Jack Dade. I think this is where it's going to be, guys. From fourth back to ninth. No more than about half a second as Adrian Hadfield, Martin Shirley trade places. And they're backwards and forwards, forwards and backwards. Jack Holland takes them through the bus stop. Pete Woodmore close behind, Martin Shirley close behind him, then Adrian Hadfield and Lee Rylands trying to get in on the battle there. Goes up the inside of Adrian Hadfield, and Sean Webber goes, thank you very much, I'll have some of that as well. So they go flying past. And then back up there to Peter and Martin side by side as they come round the final bit of banking. Something's happened out front as well. Peter Sidcar's now taking it off of Scott Kostrick. They've caught right up, but 3 seconds back to Jack Holland, Peter Woodmore. There's lots going on here all over the place. And Sean Webber, this is a big old bunch here. There's some argy-bargy. Even Adrian Hadfield and Eric Ronenberg are trading places. Back there in 10th, 11th and 12th. Peter Woodmore loses a place to Sean Webber, and someone takes a spin there. I think that was actually Sean Webber. Took bit of a dive to the right. That's not the way the corner goes, not that sharply anyway. So Pete Woodmore trying to close Lee Rylands down as they go into the infield. Martin Shirley 8 tenths behind. Adrian Hadfield's now lost some places. In fact, there's quite a bit going on back there. We've got Eric making his way through the field with Rush Lee in front of him, but up ahead of him they've got Sinan just taken Martin Shirley and gone ahead there, whilst up front in front of them we've got Peter Woodmore and Lee Rylands battling it out. So it really is going all over the place here as we're on with Peter Woodmore here. He comes around the banking, tries to close Lee Rylands down, but I tell you what, Martin Shirley's got the run on Sinan here. Teammates or no? Well, they bump draft. I don't know. I think Simmons just got taken there by the looks of it. Rushley just gone up the inside. Yep, that's Rushley in the Red Bull. Number 16, just gone up the inside of Martin Shirley. Going to hold him off round the banking. Then they're over a second back to Peter Woodmore, who's trying to put Lee Rylands under pressure, and Jack Holland. Oh, one on the inside, one on the outside. No, is Lee going to be a Lee sandwich? No, not quite. As they go through, sweep their way round into T1. Lee Rylands managed to hold them off. Jack Holland now half a second behind, but Pete Woodmore's only a tenth, and it's a swing to the left, swing to the right. They come round into the infield. And Pete Woodmore got Jack on the inside there. And Jack back to Sinan. Sinan's now on the tail of Jack Holland. He's going to hunt him down. And then his next target undoubtedly will be Pete Woodmore. Jack tries to go round the outside, nothing doing. All that's done is just let Sinan through. He's almost got a two for there. Not quite, but he's done one of them. Got past Jack. Let's let Peter get away for a bit. But Peter's going to be giving the toe to Sinan. I think he's going to be catching him up very, very shortly. It may not be before the bus stop, but it will certainly be afterwards. And here we go, they get closer and closer. You see that time fall down. Sinan catches up on the back bumper of Peter Woodmore. They come through the bus stop. Now all Sinan's got to do is get great traction out of here, and he'll just hunt him down all the way to T1. And here he comes, up the inside. There goes Sinan. And you should see Pete Woodmore appear. No, he managed to hold him off. Ah, well, good move. Pete Woodmore, Lee Rylands lost the place there. And we've all swapped places. We're all moving about as we go into T1. And we watch Sinan take them through. Jack Holland, Pete Woodmore, Lee Rylands. And then Rush Lee has just taken Lee there. Rush Lee taken Lee. Rush Lee takes it on into the infield. Lee Rylands further back. And cheeky old John Johnston. Whoa! Oh no! Dan takes out the lead owner. Not quite sure that was a take out or an accident. Anyway, back up the field. Sinan takes him through half a second ahead of Pete Woodmore, and Rushley were fighting, but Pete Woodmore went out wide there, been pushed out wide. He's now lost a couple of places. Lee Rylands has now got in front of him, and we're on with Sinan, who's now second and a half away from the guys behind, as Rushley has got Lee Rylands all over his tail. And Pete Woodmore's making the ground up, trying to get back. And Martin Shirley closely behind him. This is going to be tight going through here. But Rushley takes it through safely from Lee Rylands. Martin Shirley 7/10 back to Pete Woodmore, 4/10 behind Martin Shirley, with Jack Holland another 4/10 back there. In the meantime, further back, we've got Sean Webber duking it out with Dan Forster. He'll be closing him down. We're going to nip back up front, sorry, because Rushley is just about to get closed down by Lee Rylands as we go over the start-finish. Lee Rylands tries to take it to the outside, then to the inside. Rush Lee was too cute for that. Nothing happening. But they do both hang a bit out wide, which lets Martin Shirley get a couple of tenths back. He's now only 4 tenths behind. We've got Pete Woodmore half a second, 8 tenths back to Jack Holland. And Jake Dade trying to work his way down onto Jack Holland now as we come round. So Jake Dade trying to work something here. Get around Jack. Might be better off waiting until we get on the bank. Jake, you'll have the toe. You'll take him easy rather than risk it here. He's holding in tight. See that car skipping a bit. And here we go. Jake will now hunt Jack down, no doubt, as we see that time gap drop and drop and drop. Toe is so powerful around here, especially in these small cars. So Pete Woodmore leads Jack Holland and Jake Dade in to the bus stop. And this is where the draft will come in its own. Pete Woodmore will now feel Jack Holland getting closer and closer as they come up to the start finish. And you see that gap tumbling down. Has Jack got close enough? I think he has. He's going to have to go round the outside though. Not always the easiest way to take this. See Martin Shirley duck onto the inside and out of the way, and that's it. Jake Dade through, and we lost Sinan there as well. So Jake Dade is through on Sean Webber, Pete Woodmore, Jack Holland up into 5th place, and then ahead of him is Lee Rylands hunting down Rush Lee, and he takes him. So Lee Rylands now up into 3rd place as they come round the last 2 corners before they go out onto the bank. Lee Rylands doing a good job holding Rush Lee at bay here. Stretching that gap quite well. Now over half a second. He's pretty safe there for a while as we go back to Sean Webber. Sean Webber's got his own troubles with Pete Woodmore close on his tail, followed by Jack Holland. He's a former pretty little draft train as they come up into the bus stop. And the little kiddie car doesn't quite do it, but as we've seen time and time again, Pete Woodmore, as long as he gets decent traction coming out of there, should be able to close Sean Webber down. Although Sean Webber's doing a job of his own, getting on the back of Jay Dade, and I think that saved him actually. He's done an extremely good job there. He's actually going to take the place from Jake as we come round across the start finish. Jake's just holding on the inside, but then Sean Webber switches back. Oh, really close. Jake goes on the inside of Sean Webber. Pete Woodmore all the time is looking back. Oh! Sean Webber loses it there. Jake Dade runs off with it, with only Pete Woodmore to worry about now. So, Sean Webber all the time falling back. Dan Forrester, something's happened to him as well further back. Now we've got Rush Lee trying to catch up Lee Rylands yet again. These two having quite the battle here. Rush Lee's really giving that a push. He's right in the draft of Lee Rylands as we come round the bank. Into the bus stop. I think Rush Lee's got this no problem. Whether he wants to take it before or after, not quite sure. Decides to wait, which is a sensible option. He'll have the draft on the way out. As long as he doesn't mess up, gets the traction. And you just watch that gap tumble now. Not coming down as fast as I thought it would, but it does start to fall. Here it comes. Three tenths, turns to 2 tenths. Rush Lee's right on him, look, 2 tenths, becomes a 1/10 and a half. They come across the start finish and Rush Lee is all but in his boot. But he's gone out wide, Rush Lee's gone out wide. Lee Rylands inside, look at that gap. Went from nothing to nearly a second. And they've lost it there. Something's happened to Sinan, ended up in the pit lane. Had a great time of it there. Got to be a penalty, there's no damage here I don't think. So Rush Lee now, half a second, he's got to do it all again. Meanwhile, we'll go and have a look at Pete Whitmore as he tries to give Jake Dade a run for his money. Come on Pete. So, same format again as we were watching Rush and Lee before. You see Pete Woodmore come up behind Jake Dade because of the draft. They're going to come through. Into the bus stop as it flattens out. Now, is Pete's going to try and take him before into the bus stop. Always a dangerous move this. Oh, gets his nose chopped off. Not going through there, boy. Will he get him on the way out though? If he gets good enough traction he might. Meanwhile, Rush Lee is right on the back of Lee Rylands, further up front. And they're actually closing down Scott Kostrick here quite quickly as well. So we got Lee Rylands is 3 tenths behind Scott Kostrick. Rush Lee is all but nothing behind Lee Rylands as Lee Rylands goes round the... No, he doesn't go round the outside. Threatened to go round the outside of Scott Kostrick. Right. So Scott's got a bit of a battle on his hands now. Whew, I wouldn't fancy going that way, Lee. Around the outside. Yeah, he's got the traction though. He's got the inside for the next corner. I'm not sure even Scott will bother fighting this. He's up on the inside, got nowhere to go. Scott Kostrick. Lee Rylands fires it through. Has it gone too wide though? Oh, nearly 3 wide there. And Rush Lee just pulls back. Probably best off waiting, Rush. He's going to go up the inside of Scott, follow Lee Rylands through. That's what he doesn't want. He doesn't want to lose sight of Lee ahead of him. Meanwhile, Pete Sidcar flies away with it 4 seconds up front. Right, now we've got a back-to-back, haven't we? So we've got Lee Rylands, Rush Lee, Scott Kostrick, Jake Dade, with no more than 2 tenths between, argy-bargy between Scott and Rush Lee there. Lee Rylands takes him into the bus stop. Rush Lee close on his tail. It's going to be a mega draft chain here from second all the way back to 6th. So we're going to see Lee Rylands and Rush Lee. We're going to drag him down. Scott Kostrick's decided to dive to the outside, try and take advantage. What he's going to end up doing is blocking Rush Lee in. I'm not sure Rush Lee's going to be too happy about getting blocked in there. No, Scott's falling back a bit because he's losing the draft. As Rush Lee tries to squeeze up, but they come into T1. Scott's on the outside and touches Rush Lee. You could almost see that coming. That was poor positioning by Scott to be out there. Rush Lee was always gonna come out. I'm not saying it was Scott's fault, but probably not the place to be. Meanwhile, Jake Day takes Pete Woodmore on the inside. Scott Kostrick does survive. And now Martin Shirley's in the fight. So now this is where the battle is. Jake Day, Pete Woodmore, Scott Kostrick, Martin Shirley, and Scott Kostrick loses it. Oh, gives Martin Shirley a bump on the nose to worry about as well. Scott Kostrick has now parked it back there. Rush Lee gets to take 6th place off of Scott Kostrick, which is a minor consolation from what happened earlier. In the meantime, Lee Rylands is now free to get away with it. 2.5 up on Pete Woodmore. I'm not sure there's going to be much happening there. Jake Dade is second away from Lee Rylands. Is now under pressure from Pete Woodmore. Come through the bus stop. And Pete hold it together and catch him up coming out the outside. We shall see. Go on, Peter. Managed to close him right down there. What a great camera angle. Is he going to try and sneak out? Wouldn't fancy the outside line, Peter. I take the inside if you can. Across the start finish. Go for the yes. Wow. Jake just a bit later on the brakes. So see you later, Peter. Peter's left 3/10 the worse off there. They've actually managed to close Lee Rylands down a bit. Further back, Rush Lee is now being bothered again by Scott Kostrick. Sure there'll be no love lost there for that little tapping Rush got earlier off of Scott, but Scott goes wide and gives Rush Lee plenty of breathing space. Meanwhile, Sean Webber trying to put the moves on Sinan. Sinan takes a bit of a slide, but Sean Webber goes wide anyway. But is that a manoeuvre to get up underneath? It is. He's got up underneath him. And we'll now take it away as we go round onto the bank. Sean Webber doing what he can to hold Sinan off. Don't think it's going to be long as Sinan's going to be past him. He's a bit further away than he'd like, possibly, but I think the draft will pull him in. We'll go through the bus stop. And then we'll see the magic happen as we go out the other side. But, sorry guys, going to have to skip to this because we've got Jake Dade making a move on Lee Rylands up front. Pete Woodmore in the battle, so we've got a three-way battle here for second place. Jake Dade getting a little push from Pete Woodmore. As Pete tries to dive for the inside, but we saw what happened last lap. And Jake's just going to brake a little bit later. Pete's going to sit back in third, and Lee Ryland's going to be left holding the bag there. So we go back to Sinan and Sean Webber. They're still duking it out. As they come round into T1, little tentative tap on the brakes there. So the car move its way to the front and it just dips. Now we go back out front to Jake Dade, who's now under pressure from Pete Woodmore as ever, and Lee Rylands close up behind. I think the real danger here is Lee Rylands. So, Basic car, 4.5 seconds back to Jake Dade. And that's nothing back to Pete Woodmore. Lee Rylands just a little bit further away. What's the game here, Peter? You're now under pressure from Lee Rylands. Got to make a decision. Peter's gone up the inside. He's made it as well. What a great move. Fantastic move there from Pete Woodmore. Unfortunately, I think he's just ended up giving the draft to Jake Dade, and Lee Rylands coming out of back. Now on board with Peter Sidcup. So he takes it round onto the bank for the final time. He's going to bring it home. Jake Dade, Peter Woodmore close behind, having a bit of a battle there. But regardless, Peter's going to win this one. So he comes through the bus stop for the last time. Peter Sidcup is going to be the winner. The last race of season 7. Well done, Peter. Fantastic win. Here we go, coming up to the line. Peter takes the win. Peter Woodmore close behind, being hunted down by Jake Dade and Lee Rylands. And Martin Shirley, Rush Lee, Scott Kostrick, Rob Sutherland, Dan Forster, Dan Wirham, Sean Webber, then Sinan, Jack Holland, John Johnston. And there we have it. Our winner of the final race of Season 7, Pete Sidcup from Peter Woodmore, Lee Rylands, Jake Dade, Martin Shirley, Rush Lee, Rob Sutherland, Dan Forster, Dan Wirham, Sinan, Sean Webber, Jack Holland, John Johnson, Eric Ronenberg, Adrian Hadfield, Stuart Briley, Scott Kostrick, Rob Jackson in 18th, Tom Holland, Niels Kula rounds it off. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as we've enjoyed the racing and the commentating, and be back soon for Season 8. Well done to Eric Ronenberg for winning Pro and Adrian Hadfield for winning AM. Signing off.